Well, as soon as the thing moves.
ZOW Foreigner. You may have heard those guys going on their farewell tour as well. Well, those scripts have flipped. Lou Graham rejoining the band. These guys are adding tour dates, so get on out there and go see them. Double vision right now, 97.7 ZOW.
All right, let's see what happens. It actually runs and drives. And kind of stops.
Hello.
Who's that?
I don't know, but it was waving. Perfect timing, right?
Let the camera fall wherever it wants. Oh my God. Full throttle either. It was, I'm guessing, I don't know, 65, 70% probably. Golf cart. know it's been a very long time. But what can I say? It's got hair now. Kind of like it. So the update on the car. The car runs. I've been driving it. I've made a lot of changes to it. Currently I've added a carburetor to it. Got rid of the Phytec fuel injection because it didn't like the E85. It just kept flooding and flooding and flooding. And I just got sick of it. So I've been making some changes to the carburetor. I've changed a bunch of stuff on it. I added the crossover tube. Instead of going with the two long tubes that come up through the hat, I added that, which is a truck, off-road truck crossover tube. Because I don't want to take my vents out. Air divider. I like that. I think it directs the flow of the air much better throughout the whole carburetor. So I didn't want to get rid of that, so I decided to try that and see if that works. I also changed my fuel pressure hose from the back of the carb hat to the intake. And when I did that, it changed a whole bunch of stuff. I had to crank down crank up the fuel pressure on that to get it back at the 5 or the 7 psi on the gauge versus where it was up here on the hat. What I think was happening on the hat was the air was just coming down past the vent, and instead of blowing into the vent, it was creating a suction by blowing by it, pulling vacuum. So I could never get the feeling right on this thing. So I've changed that. My fans, the cheap eBay fans, 80 watts, they would not keep this thing cool. I added a D-rail fan to it, which has a high speed and low speed. And it's currently wired for the high speed. It's 165 or 185 watt fan. It barely keeps it at 200. And if I have to stop and go traffic, it's going to overheat. So what I've got coming up for it is I've got a 2016 Camaro fan coming, which is PWM controlled. And I've got a controller for that. And that pulls 4,500 CFM roughly. I'm really hoping I can make it fit. And then hopefully that'll take care of that. I've also changed my brake system. I've got a Willwood dual piston set up down there. Everything's tight. Currently I've got the 1-inch going to the front brakes and the 7/8 going to the rear. It's better than what I had slightly, but not much, because what I originally had there in the back, it worked decent. It almost actually about the same as what those do. But the master cylinder I had was a power brake master cylinder. So, yeah, that was kind of horrible. So all in all, the brakes are fairly close to about the same as what it is. And you can see my pedal is moved over here, so that way I don't have to have my foot way over here. It's more comfortable for braking over here, and a lot easier too as far as pushing, because it takes some pressure. I've also changed to a MSD programmable, and I'll get to the curve on that. And to control the fans, for now, I've got the Dakota Digital, and that thing is nice. I tell you what, it's worth the money. If you need one, get it. It's nice. It's Bluetooth. You can set it wherever you want. It works great, actually. And I'm going to use that to turn on the PWM controller, which actually will turn on the fan, because the PWM controller remembers the last setting. So I'm going to, instead of getting rid of that because it was really expensive, I'm going to use that to turn the controller on, which has the memory setting, which will turn the fans back on at the last setting they were on. So hopefully it all works out pretty good. So I've made some changes. Finally got the bottle in. Make sure, if anything goes boom, I can actually do that. I've added the boost gauge to it. Other than that, not a lot. As far as the carburetor goes, carburetor has, it's a 850 E85 carburetor. And there's the jets and the settings. The high-speed air bleeds I just changed to 28s. So I've got my nobody likes you enough to ever come over and give you a hand starter, you know, to bump it over so you can do stuff by yourself. You got to learn to do that when, you know, nobody cares. I added a port back here so I can connect that to, which this is the solenoid wire coming off the key to the solenoid. So I added that there, and then I also added down here, that's a power that's coming directly off of the battery junction box over there. And for timing, when I do the timing on this, I had to add a separate ground over here because for whatever reason the timing lights did not like the ground system on this for whatever reason, and it was grounded fine. But so I added that to make my life easier because 90% of the time I'm by myself. I've also added these, I don't know if I can get in there, El Cheapo Amazon oil catch cans, and I've got it routed to the intake or the valve cover, and the hose just goes from there to the top of the turbo, and as you can see it in there, it just pokes through and that creates the vacuum that sucks it, and I got one on both sides, and the hose just goes there. I ended up making a baffle in here because you can't really buy anything for these cheap ass aluminum valve covers, so I made me like a little baffle system, put it in there, and it seemed to work, and it does catch oil. I don't have oil leaking out the valve cover anymore or trying to push out anywhere else, so that works for now. We'll see what it does at, you know, over 15 psi. So here's what my curves are so far. Sorry, I don't know how to zoom in with the GoPro. I've forgotten so much, it's been so long. But I'm taking out 17 degrees of timing at startup, ramping it back in about 900 RPMs, and then it just goes to max all the way across. On boost, at, let's see, basically 1, 2, 3, 4 psi, I start pulling timing out. And at 10 psi, I'm about 5 degrees of timing pulled out. So that would be what? 31 at 36 degrees. So I'd be pulling, it'd be 31 degrees to timing. And then it goes down to a max of 8 or 9. I think it's 8. And that would be a max of 8.4 degrees at, what was that, 5, 10, 15 psi, and then it just flatlines over. So I'm pulling a total of 8.4 degrees of timing out. So 8.4 minus 36, I'd take it down to what, 28 degrees total timing at 20 psi. And I think that's not bad. I was down to 22, 24, I think it was 22 degrees originally, and the motor was a dog. I didn't like it. So I like where it's at now. I'm going to leave it and see how it goes. Once I get the AFRs in tune with the carburetor, once I get that taken care of, come on, you can do it. Once I get the AFRs done, then I can make some changes to it then, but I've got to get that taken care of first. So I'm gonna take it for a test drive here in a minute and see how it does. So I got my controller for my fan, my PWM controller, that little thingy. So I'm sitting in my car, I'm looking where this thing's gonna go. I thought about putting it down there or somewhere else, and then I looked over here and there's a Nice hole right there. Very nice hole. Used to be an AC car, so I got the vents, and I thought I need to fill that hole with something. It ought to fit nice and tight. So it will fit in there nice and tight. I gotta build something to try to take up the slack on it, but that's where that's gonna go. And my fan showed up today. Here in a minute I'll get some measurements on it and see exactly what it's going to take to make this beast fit. That thing is huge. There's my hand. It's big. So I had to make something for this. So I went down in my hobby room. A little hobby room. I do this in the wintertime when there's really, you know, nothing else to do and it's too cold to do anything. Would you move? I got stuff down there, down there. There's a bunch of stuff. I got stuff up here. And as you can see, I don't get down there much. So I needed to make something for this little controller. Can you see that? There we go. So I took some styrene, pretty thick stuff. I used that. Then I used some bar stock, and I come up with this. I still got to modify this little edge here a little bit so it slides in better. But that's going to slide in there, take up the slack, and then that should sit nice and tight in the dash. And that'll control it, or help hold it in. And actually I gotta put it in this direction for the wiring, which is another consideration on these things, because unfortunately the wires don't come out the back. They come out the bottom. So you gotta have room to be able to come out the bottom. And I got a metal dash, so I gotta do something with that. But that'll work. Now, back out to the garage. So what I decided to do for the fuel pressure regulator is I put it back on the hat. But this time I put a brass fitting in, which is about 1/4 inch longer than the thickness of the hat. And I U'd it, made a U shape, so that way when the air pressure comes down, it'll actually hit the U shape and force air into it. Yeah, should work. We'll find out. I didn't like having it in the intake because that boost, it made the regulator just jumped all over the damn place. So I'll get this out and get that stuff yanked out, and hope like hell I can make this thing fit. Alright, I got the radiator out. And as you can see, it covers the entire radiator. My radiator actually, I believe, is too small for my car. My radiator overall measures 21.5 by 24. And the actual core is only 16 by 24, roughly. And as you can see, the shroud sits on her decently. It measures approximately from the lip, from the, I don't know, not the tabs, but from the actual lip, 21.5 by 23. So it's a little bit longer than what I got. But I think I can make it work. Just have to make a spot for the upper radiator hose, the lower radiator hose, and then the peacock drain. And then cut this off, cut that off, maybe cut them all off, I don't know. Or cut them down. And then see how it lines up on the actual radiator. As long as I keep this down some, as long as I keep this down below the cap level, I should be fine, because I'm actually going to raise the radiator up in the car 1.5 inches because I think it sits too low in the car too. And then I need to come up with a better way to mount this stuff to make it easier to take apart, because it's a pain in the ass. So I guess I'll get to cut and see what it looks like in a little bit. Well, it's another day. I wanted to film some of this yesterday, but when you leave the battery in the GoPro, it slowly drains itself. I don't know if it's turning on or if it's becoming sentient and wanting to kill me. I don't know what's going on, but the battery is dead. So here's the preliminary install of it. I did raise the radiator up 1.5 inches, something I've been meaning to do. And that's the clearance I've got between everything, which isn't bad considering it's further away from the headers, which I like. The other fan was hitting on that side, and that may or may not be a problem, not sure. But clearance wise, yeah, it's definitely tight, but it fits. I'll never be able to access the crank bolt again, but what are you gonna do? What I ended up doing is I cut these off, the original shroud that was on with the 2 fans, notched it, modified it, made it fit, put that on there. It's still got to come up a little bit, so I got to figure out if I want to put a pin in it or screw or something to hold it. I don't know yet. But as far as clearance on the bottom of this thing, it's not that bad. I don't know if you can see that or not, but by the time I'm done, it'll be level with this plate here. I used the plasma cutter and just cut the ends off of this. And it worked out pretty good. Oh, and I found out something else yesterday too. When I pulled it in before I started tearing all this stuff apart, I put the timing light on it. And if you remember earlier, I set it at 36 degrees timing on the distributor by just moving the crank. Apparently this thing's only been running at 20 degrees timing max the entire time I've been driving it. I'm not sure what's going on. I don't think the balancer slipped. It's brand new. So once I get this all back together, I'll find out. See what the hell happens. If the timing is actually set to 36 degrees like it's supposed to be, this thing ought to be a lot more fun to drive. So what I'm going to end up doing is pull this back out, figure out how I want to secure the radiator or shroud so it doesn't slide downward. There's several different ways I can do it. I just haven't figured out which way I want to do it yet. I'm waiting on the plug for it to come in. The radiator was 170. The damn plug for the engine, for the body harness side, is almost 50 bucks. So I'm into this for what, $220 roughly? Well, that's not bad, I guess, considering the price of the derail fan. What number was that? I don't remember the actual part number on it, but it's a 2-speed fan. I think that fan is like $171 just for that. And the fan I'm putting in it is 5 times, you know, what that will ever be. And as you can see, it covers the entire radiator for the most part. And supposedly it goes up to 4,500 CFM, 5,500 depending on who you talk to. We'll find out. But that's how it's looking. I'm getting closer. Get that taken care of. And then reset the timing. Take it out for another spin. I wanted to give a shot of it out of the car. so you can see what it looks like. All the little bracketry that was on the sides, I took and cut all that out and trimmed it all down so it's like this all the way across. And then notched that out so it'd fit, ground it down. And it only sticks past my radiator about 1.25 inches roughly. So that ain't bad. And then notched that out, which was a flappy there, and then that was a flappy. Got the hole for that, which I'll probably never ever be able to reach, but maybe if I crawl under the car I might be able to. I may have to trim that a little more to get my fingers in, or make a tool or something. I don't know. I'm going to trim that off and probably just trim this down just to make it look cleaner, because I don't like that. That doesn't need to be there. But anyways, I just want to give you a shot to see what that looks like. I think I'm going to end the video here. I got the radiator and the fan installed. I don't have the controller put in yet. Haven't wired nothing. Haven't timed the vehicle. I did get my rearview mirror hopefully put back up. Hopefully it stays. It fell off last time. Fans in. A little bit of clearance. I got it. I guess it depends on where you go. About 1 inch from there to there. A little bit more clearance over there. And everything bolts up. Everything fits. It's nice and secure. I ain't going nowhere. Waiting on my plug to get in. And then after that gets in here, and then I'll do everything else and take it for a test drive, and I'll video all that. I think that's going to be it for now. The next video should be within a week or less, depending on if I have time to mess with it.